Let's start driving with the petrol 3-liter 6-cylinder and here sport mode from 30 to 45 mph. That's it. Yeah, that was quick. Here with 400 horsepower, 5.3 seconds, 0 to 100 is the acceleration figure. And we're going to try to experience how different is it from the previous generation X5. We know this engine, of course, has been refined, new suspension, of course, new axle and everything. Here we're driving the air suspension. If we are in that sport mode here, we also have a sportier setup. We have it in combination here with the 22-inch wheels. These are already the larger wheels in the width, so they're wider. And the 23 would then also have a different diameter. Let's see how they also drive then. And it's still here relatively flat at the moment. Sport suspension then here in the setting is still fine. You can do a lane change here. Let's see here how the car is shaking up or not shaking up. Really stable. The steering has actually been fine-tuned as well. So that's also something that we experience, for example, from combustion engine X3 to iX3. That the steering now is a little bit more precise, you know. And what I also like is here when we go to the different modes. Here, for example, in the personal mode, it's very important to me as well. And I know a lot of you guys have been asking for it. I can configure my personal mode, and then, for example, say chassis, so the suspension to soft. That works both when you have the standard adaptive suspension, but also the air suspension. But then the steering to sport. So here in the sport setting, I have a little bit more feedback then. It's not so much like steering through thin air. Let's see the difference here. It's a little bit softer, but still it's soft. But right, left, okay. Yeah, we're going on a test route here now. This is still a prototype vehicle. I also have test engineer in in the rear. Leah has the front seat as always. And now we can go for the next corner very soon. Here also very smooth braking and also how the gears are being shifted down. That's always very important to me when driving combustion engines, because sometimes you have setups and when you like approach the next red light and you reduce speed and sometimes you get whoop, and that's not happening here. That's to me very important to have this smooth driving feeling with the combustion engines. So here you can live with both setups. Probably Leah's setup would be to have it on the comfort steering and my setup would be here on the sport steering. And I would also keep the chassis to comfort. You do feel a notable difference when you set it to sport here now, then like these very small movements of the vehicle. You feel like some small bumps in the road. When there's on the sport mode, that's a little bit rougher, but that might be fun, for example, for alpine roads. Because sometimes we had that recently. iX3 always has a sporty setup because it has no air suspension. And the GLC EQ, for example, has the air suspension. It was great running straight. But then when we go some alpine passes, we were saying, for the passengers, maybe not so cool, sportier with the iX3. But here then you're also flexible when you can set it to the sport setup. And you can also do it in the GLC EQ, yes. But you feel that the Mercedes air suspension is usually set to a floatier scheme, whereas the BMW air suspension is already somewhat sporty in the comfort setting. Right? Next, right? So yeah, it's fun to play around with that one, and then you can find your personal mode. Let's see here in the corner. How is it for Leah when I'm in the corner with the comfort setting?
Yeah.
It's fine?
It's fine, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing, you know. So yes, maybe you don't have the most floaty feeling, but especially for the passenger, it's actually better when it's not so floaty in the air suspension setup. You know, also when I, let's say, try to shake up the vehicle here like this, a little bit right, left. Maybe this for once here, people don't think I'm crazy because this car has the prototype camouflage around. So people see, there's something going wrong with this guy driving in the front probably, right? You know? Because sometimes when I'm driving the final vehicles and do some, I mean, I'm always safety first, yeah, but sometimes I'm doing crazy stuff on the road. Not unsafe stuff, but maybe crazy stuff. So they at least know that some testing is going on here. Yeah, but I think they both work. So depending on what you like, if I do some right, left here now, yeah, the car stays really, really calm. And the funny thing is, they have all powertrains here in one car, and somehow you feel that the combustion engine here, the petrol, will be the lightest. So there will be like somewhat 400, 500 kilograms lighter than the electric one. Let's see if we feel it, because we're soon going to hop onto the all-electric one. But what I can already say right now is that this vehicle here drives a little bit more like an electric vehicle in comparison to before. And I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that in a smoothness sense. Because with a lot of vehicles, you feel like, oh, the electric version is really smooth in accelerating and decelerating, at least when you control it in the proper way, not like hammering it all the way through. And then the combustion engines more have this rather rough old school feeling. But here what I feel in comparison to the previous generation, that it is a little bit more refined, you know, how the acceleration and the braking is taking place. It's a little bit smoother. Hammering in the indicator, by the way, is a lot of fun. And yeah, I definitely have to say that steering is more fun, and also here the power delivery, you know, they adapted the all-wheel drive system, you know, how the car is pushing out of the corners. You still feel that classic rear-wheel bias. And you know that a lot of manufacturers are going away from these classic all-wheel drive systems, even from for their combustion engine models, also because of some, you know, emission rules and new technology. And here you still have, you clearly feel the rear-wheel bias when you go out of the corner. And as a good comparison, before we have been driving the X7 the past days. Then just when we went with our X3 in the workshop. We had the X5 as a replacement from the previous generation, so you can really very well control that. So this one here, the new generation, feels to me a little bit more refined and, let's say, settled on the road. I always like to use the term like sovereign on the road, so it feels even more planted. And that is what I mean by that. It feels more electric, but not in a way that it's, oh, beautiful old Jaguar XK8 was one of my favorite vehicles, actually. One reason why I started to go being a car enthusiast. Here now, for example, here in the slide right corner, I know exactly what I'm doing, and it is not sporty in a way that it becomes uncomfortable to drive it, but it's definitely more engaging than most of the SUVs. And just been talking to the engineers, and they say that one of the goals was to make the car feel smaller than it actually is. And I think that works, because I'm not sure how Leah sees it, but I mean, the cockpit and everything, the steering is iX3, like we know it from the iX3. And if you would close your eyes now and just like from how the car is moving, could you tell if it's the iX3 or the X5 or the iX5? No. That's the thing, you know? And usually when you jump to a different segment, you could directly tell, okay, that's the bigger, that's the bulkier car, and maybe has more luxury features, but it feels bulkier. Yes, the iX3 here, in very tight corners, it will still be more agile when you go head to head. But especially if you have maybe like a week or two between having driven these cars, and especially when we just like an hour ago or 2 hours ago, we drove the X7. And yes, they built on the same platform. Yes, it's a little bit longer car, but we also drove the X5. So this one indeed feels smaller, more agile, and just at the same time also super relaxing, because when it's a little bit sportier and more agile, you don't necessarily have to use that potential, you know? So when you're driving it in the calmer way, then it kind of feels like nothing, you know?
So silent.
It's very silent, you know? Although the combustion engine should not have the laminated windows. It should not. No, it doesn't, yeah, just as expected. And I mean, they're already quite thick. And we're also going to try some highway very soon as well. But when it's already silent in the non-laminated windows, looking forward to jump over to the iX5 then soon to see how the difference is there. You don't feel too much noise from the engine anyways, only when you really, hit the throttle. So yeah, I was thinking, why didn't they go for the lamination in the windows also for the pure combustion engine? I think it would have been a good use case of that. But at least we can say it's already silent, even if you don't have that. Oh, what a beautiful road here in front of us, right? So, yeah, really a joy. And that brings us also back to the topic of what might be our next car when the lease of the X3 plug-in hybrid is over. And you know, there is this... Leah is smiling. And you know, Leah is the fan of the GLC EQ, you know, pretty much.
Yeah, it's tough.
And iX3 was also on the table, but this one here gives you the air suspension carpet does a lot of difference, right, in comparison to the iX3, for example. Even more so maybe
and
soon in the iX3. Seat cooling, I have of course the seat cooling. It could be a little bit stronger, I feel. But we have level 2 at the moment, that it's not too loud for you, but let's try level 3 here. Because that's also something in the previous generation, X5 and X7, the seat cooling is not really that strong. Audi
And
had,
in the Q7 it was.
yeah. In the Audi's even worse probably. And the thing is that, for example, all the new Chinese brands, they have like the seat cooling, like we blow you out of the seat. But that might be helpful in recent heat waves in Europe or in the US here as well. So level 3 is a little bit more notable now, but yeah, maybe for some very hot days it could be a little bit stronger from the seat cooling, but it's still very good to have that. And unfortunately, we don't have it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's always good to have an agile car that you can react quick on someone mowing the lawn on the side of the road. Yeah, you know, stuff like this always happens when you're live on tape on Autogefuehl, definitely. So, yeah, really enjoying the ride here in the all-new X5.